Hey, Henry, welcome back.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Clearly, I haven't been doing this for 3 weeks because I was just muted in like 3 different places. So if you said anything, I didn't hear you. I forgot how to do this.
Yeah, all good. How are you?
Man, I am thankful to not be doing anything this weekend. That's how I am. The last 3 weeks have been another stretch of just go, 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 always doing something. So I'm looking forward to playing golf early morning, and I don't have anything else planned. And that's how I'm living my life this weekend.
That sounds wonderful. Well, I can sympathize for sure. It's feels like all summer has just been travel, and um, lots of good things. ChannelCon was awesome a couple weeks ago. Big shout out to all the communities that were involved there. Got to get you involved there next year, Josh.
Well, the problem, and maybe I need to bark at whoever can change it, is the first weekend of August every year, the running club I'm part of, 10 Junk Miles, we hold our annual 100-mile race, and I'm the aid station captain for the 33/70-mile turnaround, where we cook, like we basically convert this picnic shelter in the middle of nowhere, northern Illinois, into like a little diner restaurant where we cook to order really good food and have couches and make it a party. So unfortunately, unless ChannelCon ever changes their weekend, I unfortunately will never be able to make that, which saddens me because I really want to go.
Yeah, no, I think next year is pretty much the same dates in San Diego, if I recall.
Sure is, which again I would love to go, but I'm same dates already going to be in the woods of northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. Yeah. So maybe cloning technology will exist by then, and then we can have 2 Hohbeins. Not that the world needs 2 Hohbeins, but it helped me out.
Well, yeah, who knows with the way that technology has been progressing here as of late.
That's right.
So let's bring in our illustrious guest, though. He can kind of shoot in with us. Mr. Bob Miller himself. How are you, sir?
What's going on, gentlemen? Good to see both of you.
Yeah. Good to see
Saw
you as
Henry at
well.
ChannelCon. I got to see Henry at ChannelCon. Then did not see Josh at ChannelCon, as we just you guys just alluded.
Hey, if you guys ever want to run the 100-miler, I got you. I will make sure.
Yeah, let's just make it clear right now. If my choices are going to ChannelCon or doing 100-miler, yeah, you're out of luck, dude. That's never going to happen. So
Yeah, I can't think of any situation where I'm actually going to do 100 miles.
Yeah, no. Even if I'm being chased by the devil himself, I'm not going to make 100 miles. It ain't going to matter. So.
Hey,
and by the way, you missed a hell of a good time, though, Josh. It's best party of the entire year. Most information exchanged, but I'm not telling you that to make you jealous. I'm just saying, it was like really good.
You guys missed a hell of a time too. We had a 77% finish rate. We had, kegs.
Yeah, right. The outback of Illinois, yeah. What cannot be great about that? Yeah.
Well, so more southern Wisconsin. I mean,
okay,
Wisconsin is awesome.
Well, you're right. You're right. I mean, that is completely different. You're right. So I'll take that.
So I had the benefit last week of partaking in my first hacker summer camp with Black Hat and DEF CON. Have either of you guys been to that?
No, I did see the pictures of the lines, because there was some people coming. It looked like Disney World. The lines were like wrapped around buildings and stuff. So it must have been fun because everybody looked to be having a good time, though.
Yeah, LineCon is a thing for sure.
LineCon, right.
I've done a couple of the camps through Black Hills InfoSec. They're very fun, but I haven't done like an in-person one like that. But it's been a while. We're already getting too much in the tech. We got to do our sports talk here. I mean, speaking of San Diego, top of the NL West, by one game.
Yeah. That's my poor Cubs have not done well, and of course we had a really bad injury earlier this week. So yeah, no, that's sports are depressing at this moment.
I mean, there's only one sport on. Football's almost here. So, are you a Bears fan then too? You're just all in the Chicagoland.
Yeah, no, that's I hate myself, so I'm a Bears fan as well.
Yeah. Makes sense.
How about you, Bob?
All right. Well, we're just college. Well, I mean, college teams. So LSU won the World Series. This year, so that was a big deal for us. So
yeah,
we've been doing pretty good. That's the second time they've won in 3 years. So hope that's a trend because it was a lot of fun to watch. That's for sure. And they have the record for the most. In fact, I don't think this record is going to ever be peaked, by the way. But they get the record for the most Jello shots bought by the crowd of supporting a team in the history of Jello shots up there. So that's that'll tell you how it works down in Louisiana, anyway.
I didn't know that was a stat that people tracked, but
oh no, yeah. Oh no, it's definitely an importance. It's not just a stat; it is an important metric by all measures. But yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we want to dive right into our stories here.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one is an interesting one. We just found our second hardware keylogger in a week. How do we combat this? Completely separate clients in different states, both standard offices with no public footprint. We've seen a few here and there, but this is the first time. We've had multiple in the same month, and I can't recall any that were in private offices. Most were co-working space or retail public. Both appeared to be an AirDrive. I'm not going to link the URL or anything. We also found a malicious flash drive disguised as a Logitech keyboard dongle, and we block all USBs good. But how are you combating this? We're only finding when we do hardware work like office moves and such. What are you doing when you discover these? Luckily, these weren't secure clients with compliance requirements, just basic normal office companies. So before we get into it, I've been doing this for about 20 years. I assume that you guys have a little more years in this field than me.
What are you trying to say there, Josh?
No, I don't have a beard. My beard hasn't grown in yet. That's what I'm trying to say. I got a couple
grow
years
one yet.
before the gray beard is. I have never seen a hardware keylogger. Is this something you guys have ran into? I mean, you go to the obviously in the wild. I've seen them in hacker demonstrations and the OMG cables, and I know that they exist. And if they're at a hacking or cybersecurity convention, yes. I've never seen one in the wild, let alone two.
Yeah, Bob, have you?
Well, yeah, I mean, keyloggers were some of the first things people started playing around with, right? Back when there wasn't even a word called cybersecurity, right? This is back in the day when, it was just a bunch of nerds just messing with each other, right? And so, some of the first things that happened back then were keyloggers, because those were kind of, those were upfront and easier to to tackle, right? So it's like everything. Again, having been Josh being not so subtle in his fact that we're old and all that, but anyway, having been around as long as I have, and being as old as I am, as Josh pointed out, the point is these things come around. You know what I mean? These things cycle back around over and over again, right? So things that are just like bad, like bell-bottom pants, they come around and go around and come around and go around. These are just slightly modern adaptations of things that have been going on for a long time. But I mean, they get out of our local memory because people start countering. Keyloggers are at least something that you can counter if you just do a little bit of due diligence about how to keep up with what's being added to your network, right? That kind of a deal. So it's not the hardest thing in the world to detect, right? If you've got DHCP allocations and suddenly you got one more than you used to, right? I mean, that could at least be something that you can use to go figure out what's going on. But it's it just goes around again, right? So it's really easy to just tag onto a network and plug into a socket, especially if they're not managing all of their network connections in any kind of really way. So really easy to do, stupid easy technology, been done before. People forget about it. They come back and try it again. It's like digital certificates, right? We saw SolarWinds get exploited because they weren't paying attention to their certificate server. Well, hell, certificate servers have been around forever too, right? So it's just one of those. In my mind, this is just somebody recycling an idea that and it's very effective, by the way. I mean, that's the other thing. It's really simple, but it's effective. So not really hard to do, but it does take some physical. I think the reason we don't see it very often is it takes a physical act, right? Somebody's got to go and actually get somewhere and plug something in to make it happen, right? So that's, I will say that as being an old dude, I see that, people, the people who are now the younger people are too damn lazy to go try to break into an office and plug something in. They'd rather try to figure out how to do it from their gaming chair, in the shadow somewhere. So I think that's why we don't see a lot more of it. But it is really simple to do. I mean, it's stupid simple.
You can't order DoorDash.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
right.
whippersnappers.
So,
No.
Yeah.
all right. Given that, then Henry, what are we supposed to do? I mean, is this something that we need to take extra security on, or is this something that we just need to be aware of? Like, what do we need to do in this? He's found two. I mean, next week there might be four. Is this going to keep getting worse?
So, I'm trying to recall back in the far reaches of the memory banks here. I do remember seeing some in like the late '90s in the wild, but that was before I was in business myself. I've only seen one when I was in business, and it was an insider
Yep.
manager that didn't trust his employees, and this was in a slew of different surveillance techniques that he was trying to employ to monitor his employees, because he was also convinced the government was out to get them, which maybe they are, but as far as whether or not you should be doing something new, you should be doing the basics already, in my mind, of monitoring USB and knowing what's in your environment and doing those audits. So I would hope that this was caught because this person was doing the basics. Most people should be doing that. So as far as doing anything extra, I'm not sure, other than just being aware that these types of threats, OMG cables and so forth, exist. Like, you can just hop on Hack5's marketplace and order whatever you need. So
Right. I mean, they're easy. That's the other thing, because of because of the advent of USB and being able to put these in line with keyboards. I mean, most people don't look behind their computers ever, right? So if you really, I would say that you need your surveillance needs to be commensurate with the risk that the organization has as it relates to things like compliance, right, or protections. So if you're, if you are subject to compliance, either because of financial compliance or HIPAA or whatever they might be, CMMC2 or whatever, then you just need to have a normal survey process that goes back and just double checks. This is something you need to check for because it is really stupid simple to do. Now they have to get in there, put it in there, and they have to get out, come back and get it. Depends on the type of keylogger, right? If it's trying to report through the internet or if it's just doing it, if it's just logging the keys and then they have to retrieve it to figure out what's going on. I mean, there are lots of different kinds, right? But the bottom line is auditing your hardware is going to be, in this case, would be the only way that you would actually probably catch some of these hardware loggers anyway. It's interesting they did find two. So they got a pattern going on, which means there's a cell who believes heavily in them, near where they're at. So, because I don't know that I've heard about this being widespread, but clearly they got somebody who's a huge fan, in the area. So,
all right, well, I'll wrap it up then. So, user awareness, make sure that people are aware that these things are out there and they don't just pick up whatever random flash drive they find in the parking lot and plug it in. And there's various technical controls to where you can block USBs and things like that. So, basic things that are already covered, just be aware that these are out there. So let's go ahead and get into
CIS Control 1 and 3.9 and yeah.
Yep. All right, so let's bring this the interesting story here that kind of got passed around here. Clorox sues their I don't know how to say that. Cognizant.
Yes. Old guys like us know how to do it. It's Cognizant.
Cognizant due to helpful help desk. Clorox got ransomed in 2023, and they're now suing their help desk provider. Clorox says that it was due to their overzealously resetting passwords and MFA tokens without verifying the identity of the caller.
Okay.
Yeah. So the hackers called the outsourced IT help desk pretending to be employees and simply asked for password resets. No identity verification was done. The service desk agents literally handed over the passwords and they set them to welcome or Clorox at 123, and they reset the MFA without asking any security questions. After gaining initial access, the hacker called back pretending to be a different, more privileged IT security employee and got those credentials too using the same exact social engineering. This phone-based attack led to ransomware deployment that cost $380 million in damage to Clorox's business, and now they're suing their IT vendor, claiming they failed to follow basic security protocols. On the other hand, Cognizant blames Clorox's overall cybersecurity setup. This entire hack required zero technical skills. All it took was convincing phone calls to undertrained help desk staff who gave away the keys to the kingdom. Did any of you guys read the transcript from the court proceeding where they had like the actual recorded calls and what was done?
No,
I've only seen the highlights in media.
So, and based on that, based off of like what was posted in there of the actual recorded calls, this is almost a cut and dry. Like they had, to my understanding, what was posted, they had an identity policy in place where, hey, you're supposed to do these verification, and they were not following them. And as stated, they literally reset the password and did everything. So it almost like seems that this is a cut and dry case. And we being on the MSP side, initially you're gonna kind of side with them and be like, oh, it's just a big guy pushing us around, but I don't think that's the case with this. What are your guys' thoughts on this particular scenario?
No, I mean, look, we had to put in, it was quite a few years ago, but we put in extra layers of that identification security, right? Because again, if someone's social engineered, it's really difficult from personal identifiers to catch that, right? So we literally started doing the old trick of putting a 6-digit number on their bill, right? And then if they were called in, if it exceeded a certain level of privilege, account privilege, because we knew the accounts that we were working with, it required them to actually tell us that 6-digit code off the bill, so that we could verify that they were part of the organization. Because again, you got to do something. There's the yin and the yang. You don't want it to take so long that mundane little requests are a problem, right? But you also don't want to make it so loose that you get into the situation like these folks did, where they just take it at word value, about that, to do it. So yeah, I'm like you. I mean, in this case, there's no way in hell they should have had that, to where they would just blindly reset a password. That doesn't matter. That's just not. There's no way that they're going to win that argument in any case, right? Because that's way too loose. It's too easy to get the 800 number to the help desk, right? And it's too easy to just pretend that you're somebody after scraping their Facebook and other things, right? It's just way too easy.
Yeah.
So you have to have other layers in that in place. And we had to do that very thing because ours, the interesting thing ours was that we caught somebody trying to change things like billing address or to add services to an account who was not authorized to do it. You know what I mean? And so we kind of got into it from that perspective because we're pretty good about identifying the users and we're familiar. We're pretty familiar with our user base. So we went ahead and added this layer and put it on both sides for that very reason.
Yeah, I promise I didn't wear the t-shirt on purpose, but yes, there are tools out there that help fulfill this need.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing it more and more. I mean, even the big guys, we heard the story was it last year or the year before with the casino out in Vegas.
MGM, those guys, right? They got hit with the same thing, right? It's the same exact ploy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is how, like, looking at it, and this is kind of where, look at your MSP. A lot of us, we post some of our clients on our website, or we post that we go to the events. If we do have that really great partnership with them, we want to promote that and use the referrals. And there's nothing wrong with that. But let's put on my hacker hoodie for a second. I see those. That's how I'm getting in. That's how I'm coming after you. I am going to say, hey, I'm with, this client. I'm calling Henry up and say, hey, I'm with Acme Hardware and I need my password reset. And if Henry doesn't have the identification set up, like, I'm willing to bet that the MSP is going to reset my password and I'm in. So it's imperative. I mean, you have to have some sort of identification if you are a help desk where you're getting these from. I mean, your telco, your ISP has been doing this for years. My first tech job working in a call center when I was 17, which is almost 20 years ago, believe it or not, we had like people call in, they verified name, address, and they had a secret question or a code, and they would get so pissed off. They're like, this is ridiculous. I've called 4 times and all this. And it's like, sorry, you have to do it. And 20 years later, like, we're still not doing at least that. So
no, and even those scenarios, like, obviously, in this case, to your point, like, you read some of this transcript and it's like, okay, the person just said they didn't have a password and they're like, well, let me just give you one. Like, okay, that's failure of process.
Worse, right?
But even the telcos, like, even though they have those systems in place, the social engineering still works. Still have SIM swaps and all those things that happen. So I'm curious if you guys have any ideas on controls that can exist beyond some of the typical identity layer protection that we see out there right now to help remedy some of this. Because, like, one of the things that I saw last week at DEF CON is they have a phone booth and everyone, contestants take a turn calling a target that's supplied to them, and they have to see how far they can get. And they have a soundboard and, baby crying in the background. Oh, I'm so sorry. I can't, I'm distracted right now. And they're able to social engineer their way into well beyond access into some of these systems that are supposedly controlled with identity verification.
I mean, so first off, user awareness on those type of things happening, like you being able to separate the emotion and all of those, and taking a hard stance on your policies and making sure that they're enforced. I mean, if they're doing like monitoring or quality checks, like there has to be something in place to where you can't get around the policy. But further from that, it kind of comes back to, I mean, again, doing the basics right, least privilege. And now this is harder when you have an admin account, but even at some point, like you shouldn't have an account that has got access to everything, right? Like keeping it segregated to where they have access to this. And yes, this would be a bad day, but it doesn't bring everything down because these accounts over here, are in charge of those. But again, if you have a high level privileged access account where you can, you're getting in and you can reset passwords, like that kind of falls apart a little bit. But I don't know, Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why we use like a pin that we put on the bill for the very reasons you guys are talking about, because there's no social engineering that. You know what I mean? Because
So hold on,
it's completely a
I want to
completely random
bump in
figure.
question though, Bob. How do you know if I'm working on your help desk and I don't care? How do you know that I'm asking for that pin?
Our people have to type the pin into the ticket, right? So if they don't type that 6-digit code into the ticket, then it immediately notifies their supervisor. So from our
Okay.
perspective, we built it in. Here's what I would tell you, that if you do not build it into your systems, right, you can't depend on people. And this is not a knock against people. It's just that people, when they're tired or whatever, you can't let the failures, these types of failures are in the system, not in the people. I guess that's what I need to say. Statistically, 94% of the failures are because the systems are lacking, not because of the people. So beating people is not going to do it. So you have to engineer these into the system. So how do we engineer it in the system? We just required that you put that 6-digit code in. And if you bypassed it or clicked, no, I can't do that, then a supervisor was immediately notified and that cycle closed really quickly, right? But once you do that, though, it just becomes normal, right? But the system's reinforcing the behavior, that you need reinforced, right? So those procedures. I will tell you this: the failure that we're talking about here with this MSP that was, cognizant. Their failure is their leadership didn't understand they needed to encode that in their system so that their people could not fail, because because it's not hard to do. The point is that's not hard to do. We all know, right? A little bit of
Yep.
work in your PSA and you can make sure that they're at least tracking the pieces of information that they have to and checking off things that they have to. And it would have minimized, if not prevented, this from going down. But to Henry's point, like, well, what other factors can you use that that are outside the scope of what the normal social engineering? That's what we thought about. We says, okay, well, we need to introduce the idea of an extra PIN number that is not related to anything. And the only way we transmit that is we transmit that on the bill itself, so that we know the people who are getting the bill, because no hackers want to receive a bill from anybody, right? So normally the right people are getting the bill, and if the right people are getting the bill, then it's their responsibility to have that PIN in a location. Their process should be to have that PIN available for people when they need to make a change in whatever it is they're doing, right? So it just added a out of band element to the process, if that makes sense.
Yep. Yep. Our process is we don't use a pin, but we use the push notification. So someone calls in, hey, we have to send them something. Yeah. And in this case, like, oh, well, I don't have my Authenticator app. Then our policy is like, we need to contact their known supervisor
Right.
and get verbal verification, because I mean, same thing. Like you set everything up, but you can just bypass it. Then it doesn't. You don't have anything set up. Then if it's just written down. So let's get into our next story, because this ties in perfectly. So in this case with Clorox, how do MSPs make sense for large companies? I mean, this person's thinking, hey, I don't get it. It's not cheaper most of the time to have internal staff after markups. I've seen some pretty large companies like Clorox using MSPs. I don't understand why. Is it laziness on the part of their leadership, a lack of tech knowledge? Like, it makes sense for small businesses. They have limited tech needs and they employ a full-time tech. When you have 2 tickets a day, it doesn't make sense at all, but they still need to be online and network to actually work. And in some cases for project work, mid-large, it does make sense. As MSPs, we do 100 migrations to one service or another every year. So we're going to be more familiar than those in-house guys. Sure, the in-house guys could figure it out, but if you have the budget, wouldn't you rather have an expert do it if it's related to something super business critical? But although that said, how does a mid-large size company employing an MSP to staff a help desk make any sense at all from a business perspective? The MSP passes all the cost onto the company and at a markup. So why? It just seems like a truly awful business decision with no upsides. Bob or Henry, what do you want to say to this? Is this guy right? Is he wrong? What do you think?
Big reading rainbow style co-managed, like that section of the market exists for a reason. It fulfills skill gaps. It provides additional coverage. It does give some plausible deniability that things are being handled and taken care of to an extent. But largely, it's a force multiplier for the internal IT department. So yeah, I think this person needs to probably go read Bob Coppedge's book on co-managed.
Yeah, well, or just working a or working a large IT staff in a corporation to kind of see. While you say large IT staff, it's always the group that's minimized the most inside of corporations. And I would say nowadays with the pace of change like it is, it's really asking a lot for the IT staff in a corporation to keep up with everything that's going on and the constant trends. And then, I mean, you could make that argument about security. Why would you outsource security? Well, because it changes every 15 minutes. That's, I mean, somebody's got to be focused on that mission 100%, right? So, I, I do not agree with the person who's making that assessment that it's more cost effective or economical or efficient to have it internal. It's never worked out that way because, I mean, again, the pace of change in technology, the pace and change in just how things work is increasing, which makes it very difficult for anybody who's just who's only whose job is in a corporation. It's very difficult for them to keep up with all of that because they're usually consumed with application support and other things that are important inside of the entity itself, right? Which is outside the scope of the normal operating system, keeping up with what's going on with Windows and keeping us and printers. That alone. We want to talk about why it's better to have MSPs. Printers should be stamped on your head, right? Because of the amount of trouble printers give across the board for people just trying to do business every day. They took the place, and an old guy referenced Josh, so get ready, but they took the place of fax machines because fax machines used to be the bane of everybody's existence because of how often they died or crapped out or anything. But printers, right up there at the very top. If you just look at all of those time consuming mundane things, it's just going to be better to have those as part of somebody who the economies of scales are better for. It's really difficult to tie up somebody who you're paying top dollar as a IT person in a corporation to spend their time working on printers or, trying to get printers back up and running or whatever's going on that front. There's just like Henry's talking about, co-managed is the reality of a situation, especially in middle and large companies. And there's a reason for that because there's just some things that are not cost effective for that corporation to handle. It's better to offload those to third parties, which is where MSPs can provide, a lot of benefit, from a help desk perspective.
So this kind of gets to some thoughts around that I've seen around AI. Like, where do you think this is going to the future of AI is going to impact MSPs and how they play in both small and large enterprise?
Boy, how much time we got left?
Yeah, right.
Look, this is a soapbox I've been on for quite a while, right? And I've got a lot of material I want to start posting on it. But MSPs in general have their current, whatever their current philosophy is, they're going to have to evolve here, and they're going to have to do this, and they're going to have to do it relatively quickly because as AI progresses, and I'm not saying it's there right this second, but it's giving you the precursors of what's going to be like, right? As AI gets better and better at doing some of these same mundane troubleshooting tasks, and as hardware starts incorporating the ability for having AI talk to MCPs, right? Talk to one another and fix some of these mundane things in an automated fashion, because that's going to happen. We know that's going to happen, right? Then it's going to start offloading some of the work that typical help desk is doing right now. You're already starting to see a little bit of that pressure.
Oh, come on. The network troubleshooter has been in Windows since Windows XP. Come on.
Clippy
Yeah,
enters the chat.
Yeah. And if there wasn't a blue screen thing in Windows, then we would all be fine with that. But in the end, you know what I mean? The reliability is going to increase. The ability of these are going to increase, and that's going to start infringing on the keyboard, the keyboard part of the work, right? About having to go in and actually do a lot of these things. So AI is going to be, it is definitely going to be, and it helps as a troubleshooting guide. So it's going to reduce the time to troubleshooting. It's going to have, we've always had chatbots, right? But now they're going to get actually pretty good. And in fact, they're very good now where you can talk to them and they can actually walk users through solutions, at least initial solutions, which means, okay, it doesn't replace help desk, but it reduces the number of people that you have to scale, to the same size. So, which means that's going to put pressure on that level of the ecosystem about how many people you actually need, which ultimately that means it's going to reduce the load on the humans, right? And it's not only that, right? As those continue to grow over the next couple of years and take over those jobs, or take over those purposes, those tasks, we're going to have to evolve our MSPs to move up the stack into being more of a strategic partner with the actual company themselves, not just a smart hands sort of an organization, right? So if you're predominantly a smart hands organization, you're the ones that need to figure out how to start moving up the channel. If you're already becoming a smart partner with them, then you've got a chance to help them evolve their AI adoption as a company, that sort of thing, right? Those are the
So maybe this Reddit poster is a soothsayer of the future about MSPs and their role with enterprise, because certainly seeing things like N8N has some IT operation focused things. There's a couple vendor partners that I'm doing some work with right now that are building out marketplaces, so you can just pay $500 a month or whatever to have a level 1 help desk.
Yeah.
So will be interesting. So maybe this gentleman is looking into the future.
I don't think it's that hard. I don't know. I'm not looking at the Reddit post, so I don't know who crafted it. But I mean, I think a lot of us see this coming. You know what I mean? Because I play around N8N mostly. I did because I wanted to try and do a couple things, which was really easy to do as a programmer. It was easy because I was a programmer, right? So those things are going to evolve, right, to where it's going to be easy for somebody who's not a programmer to do the same things, and those automations are going to be really easy to put in place. So I doesn't, we're not going to be able to rest on our laurels anymore. We've got to move into things like AI governance. We're gonna have to well, I can tell you this: MSPs could stay busy for the next 5 years just cleaning up data so that AI agents can actually address that data and give you back an answer that it's actually accurate what's going on, right? So the way to look at it is it's just the work's going to be different type of work, but you got to realize that and get ready for it and be moving that direction already. Because I can tell you can get inferences from large language models across your ecosystem like Copilot or whatever, but only if that data is in some sort of shape and labeled correctly and tagged correctly so you can take advantage of that, right? So there's plenty of work to clean. And by the way, it's not like anybody's running around checking to see what shape their data's in, in a long time as far as a company goes. They just kind of put it wherever it makes sense at the moment. So there's going to be plenty of work. It's just going to be different kinds of work. And I think that's the point. You're going to have to,
so Josh Bob's walking around with the end is near sign.
That's right.
Well, I would say the end is different sign. You know what I mean? It's just, it's going to be different.
It's already been different. You look back at clouds, like your MSPs and stuff, like we're not replacing servers for the most part every 4 or 5 years. Like there's not projects because we need to do an in-place server update for Exchange to go from 08 to 12 or whatever it is. Like we've had to evolve because Microsoft 365 takes care of a lot of that. So now what do we do, right? So it's just, it is the next evolution of this is going to be.
That's exactly.
The thing that a little bit worries me is already the competency of the younger generation, because again, raised off of the tablet touchscreen, you push this to do it, and it's like, well, things aren't working. What do? And AI might be able to troubleshoot that, right? But if you're not getting those base troubleshooting skills, if AI replaces that, how do you grow to be a level 2, level 3 engineer? Because you still need to have the understanding of how that works. And it'll be really interesting to see how that part kind of evolves into, how you do move up. Because again, we eliminate one layer, like it's hard to skip to the next one. But
you're 100% right, by the way. I mean, the reason I'm able to understand and apply what's going on right now is because I have that history. I know how it works at a all the way down to the hardware level, and knowing how that gives me the basis for being able to extrapolate what's going to happen next, from those in these evolutionary steps. And if you don't have that foundation, then it's going to be really easy for you to have this gap like you're talking about and find yourself trying to get on the other side of it and not having any point of reference about how to do that. So you're not wrong. I agree with you. The education of people that go into this business they need to have that foundational understanding of how everything works to even be able to apply this at a higher level. You know what I mean? In my opinion, because there will be a point where something shorts out or quits doing what it's supposed to, and then you're going to have to figure it out, and you're not going to be able to ask an LLM how to figure it out if it's the LLM that's got the problem, right? So,
Yep.
So you're still going to have people who know what they're talking about and how it all really works. I agree with you.
Well, let's pivot to our next story for a lesson on what happens if we don't do the right things. A 158-year-old company forced to close after a ransomware attack precipitated by a single guest password, and 700 jobs were lost because this company closed down. So this 158-year-old, which I'm assuming is older than Bob, but I don't want to make any assumptions here.
Yeah.
UK company Knights of Old was forced to permanently close after hackers guessed a single weak employee password. The Akira ransomware group gained access through this one compromised password and encrypted all of the company's operational data. They demanded a ransom that the company couldn't afford, and they pulled 500 trucks off the road and resulted in 700 jobs being lost. The password was weak. They didn't need any sophisticated tools. They just guessed it. So, I mean, these things happen. I know we tell our clients and we tell each other. I mean, here's an example of it happening.
Yeah, there's so many things, right? I mean, just looking at that headline already, there's a list of things you already know, right? It's like, okay, well, they did not have IT as a strategic part of their business, right? Because if they had, then there would have been at least a few more layers involved in this, right? And you just can tell right off the bat. And so the point is, how many companies out there are still like this company right today? It's an overwhelming number of them that are still in that same position, that really don't look at IT as strategic, don't think it's going to happen to them. But in this case, clearly they didn't have backups of any kind. You know what I mean? Obviously they didn't, or they'd have been able to get back up and just keep moving. So I mean, when you look at all of the failures on that front, how many times did we have to do? I mean, I've made my last 2 years really has been talking about these very things, right? Through the use of tabletop exercises and other things. But how many companies are out there who have no clue? It's still an overwhelming number. It's just really ridiculous. It's just a huge number, and they don't understand the risk that they're running. That's a 158-year-old company. That's a big legacy that just disappeared because of, I mean, pretty much they had to have their head in a sand, because I mean, otherwise they would at least heard some of the things they should be doing. And it wouldn't surprise me if they had people internal telling them all along, hey, we really need to do these things because we can get in trouble if we don't. And it just not being a strategic decision for the executive team. Yeah, by the way, this is an executive team failure as far as I'm concerned. It's the people at the top of these channels. I mean, you can't keep pushing the buck, right? You can't keep passing the buck if you're the CEO and the CFO. You just can't. It's your job, right, to make sure that you're not putting your company at risk. And clearly, this company had way more risk than they should have been. They should have at this point. It's sad though. I mean, it's really sad when you see that, because that changed a lot of people's lives, right? And you can also imagine that those 700 jobs were very much used to doing whatever it is this company was doing, and only what this company was doing. So their ability to adapt to other places and other jobs was probably, that was probably not easy either. So I just think about the human casualties all along this chain. When it happens, it is a sad thing.
Yeah, no, that's he hit it right on the head there. I think until there's either enough of a fiscal pain that insurers require this, and financial institutions require this, better security posture, or there's actual legislation that gets passed down, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot more casualties.
I know I was at a cyber conference earlier this year, and really kind of marketed towards smaller businesses, and they had a speaker up there who went and did the whole like, hey, follow a framework, do security good, and after the questions afterwards, like somebody legitly asked, like, well, what if I can't afford any of that? And, I was impressed by the speaker because it's like, did you not just listen the last 40 minutes? Like, this is all the bad that can happen. And, she said, well, that's got to be in your budget. You have to put this in there. And, my thought instantly went to, like, I get, that you're small, but like, it's going to be a percentage of the budget, but you shouldn't be worried about, well, how can I afford that security? You should be worried about, well, how can I keep my business alive so my employees can pay their mortgages and ensure that they can feed their kids, right? If you're worried about that, then the budget for, a stronger password manager or something becomes a little, it makes more sense, right? So, I think just don't focus on.
If you don't have the budget for it and you're not planning for it, then do you even really have a business? Because that's just the price of admission, right? I mean, because if it's your money, somebody's money, unless it's all your money, unless you're independently wealthy and started a company all on your dime, bootstrap the whole thing, then you're putting other people's money at risk because you have not prioritized things to mitigate the risk that you need to. We're not saying you have to have every layer of defense. It's not what we're saying, right? And we know that there's at least just 2 or 3 controls that you could put in place that'll help you. MFA, EDR, training, user training, which all of those in total are not price prohibitive to do. Those 3 alone are not price prohibitive to do. Not only that, if you have those 3, you can get cyber insurance, which if you're small enough, is not going to be price prohibitive to do. So I don't buy the argument that it's not affordable at any size. I don't. I don't agree with that at all. I don't. It's We all know, right? It's $2 or $3 a seat to have EDR now, almost, or $5 a seat or something to have EDR handled for you, right? And MFA, like you said, you can get a password keeper and at least at least have something to work with to start with. And then Microsoft MFA is free. If you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, it's bloody well free. And it's just, and unless you're not going to work, it just doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, the 3 of us here, we're preaching to the choir here, but it doesn't make any sense to assume that you can't afford to do it when that just tells me they've never even tried, right? They never even looked at it realistically. So.
Well, let's keep this conversation going a little bit with our next story here. And how did you go from fixing stuff to being in strategy meetings? So the person is hey, I'm curious about something. Anyone here go through that weird shift where you stop being the IT guy who fixes and suddenly into real meetings talking about strategy and like actual business direction? I'm trying to figure out how that transition actually happens. Was it gradual? Did someone just start asking your opinion one day, or what? Or once you're there, how's the day-to-day different? Henry, let's start with you.
I think a large part of it, what for me at least, was just raising your hand, being willing to volunteer your time and learn, just to be in the room with people that are having those discussions and kind of growing from there. I'm still not convinced anyone actually listens to anything that I say, but at least they allow me in the room with them, and that's you know that's invaluable right there for my business and for my own personal growth. So it's being around those people and volunteering to be there, and yeah, eventually people want to hear your thoughts as well because you're in that room.
I'll tell you right
Bob?
now, I would say right now, well, first of all, I think in order to be in a strategic conversation, you have to offer something strategic to the people that you're working with, right? So, I mean, and to Henry's point, one way to do that is to say, hey, you know what? I just want to sit in on what it is you guys are planning, and I'll try to, and I will take that back, and I'll make sure that we're trying to stay in alignment with whatever your current strategic vision is, right? Because if they'll let you do that, if they'll even let you in the room to begin with, then you're going to build up some trust over time and be able to really engage in that, get more engaged in that process. So I think that's a great tactic. Anytime you offer to do something, quote, free for someone, it's easier. There's less trepidation about you being involved in it, right? Especially if you're going to, but right now, today, I think MSPs have the biggest opportunity they've had in a very long time because of what we talked about before. The pent up demand for AI and understanding it and using it. I think this is an unprecedented time for MSPs to get either learn a lot about it so that they can start being, the person. Because again, if you're an MSP, you're going to be looked at as a technical resource. Well, if you understand as much as you possibly can about the application of AI in organizations, then you're at least going to have an opportunity to have that discussion with people, right? You absolutely will. And if you go and look, maybe you don't want all the expertise to train their corporation to do it, but there are companies out there and methods out there where you can partner with, that you can offer up and say, hey, if you guys want to get really trained on get your organization trained on just not just being AI literate, but being AI fluent, we can connect you up with a training partner who can go and really set your organization on that path. Now, why does that matter to the MSP? Well, it matters because when that starts happening, then whoever's teaching in that is going to start bringing up the issue of data and tagging and all the other things that MSPs can go help with, right? So, you can get pulled through the back end of that by saying, hey, I'll put you with a training group. I'll make sure that you got a really great training group to help you guys become fluent in the use of AI at a corporate level. That's going to give you the opportunity to be involved in, okay, well, to get ready for that, we need to clean our data up and have it tagged correctly and policies in place, which are things that MSPs are perfectly capable of taking on in the early stages, right? And then because of the demand for that and because everyone sees AI as a way to make a lot more money and save a lot more expense, that's just how it is right now. Taking advantage of that and being able to provide some value on that front will move the needle with you as it relates to having strategic relationships with those clients. I think now's the time. If MSPs really embrace that idea, that concept, they have a real opportunity to be able to get into those strategic conversations. And then Josh, you and I both know that doing, offering up things like tabletop exercises for the cybersecurity, let them understand what's involved in that. And then, so that they can make strategic decisions once they understand all of that. That's another thing. So anything like those things that we're talking about right here, helping providing them some assistance in understanding AI and moving forward with that, helping them understand the ramifications of not having a cybersecurity strategy, anything of those nature, those wind up being strategic conversations. So you just got to, and by the way, compliance is the same thing, right? So you could use compliance as a methodology to get into those conversations. And you could also use, the idea that of VCSOs, right? CISO, fractional CISOs is another. You don't have to have CISOs on staff. You can work with partners who have VCSOs to put in place. And when they get put in place, you're going to get pulled through on a lot of that, right? Because there's going to be a lot of things that need to be fixed and cleaned up. So you just need to look at it as a holistic sort of view, you know what I mean? So that you kind of get these partnerships in place so that you're able to offer these up as an improvement or an acceleration of the organization's strategic understanding of what they're up against. Then you will start being in those conversations, right?
I think though too, just bringing it back and just looking at it at a more simpler level. At some point when you're tech and you're going through and you're fixing these, you have to look at it from the business lens, right? You get a
Yes.
ticket because somebody's can't open Word, and the issue isn't. I mean, how you fix it is you go and you troubleshoot Microsoft Word, but looking at it from a business lens, the issue is this employee is down. We are paying her money and she's not able, or they aren't able to, produce results, right? So the cost of her being down is, $30 an hour plus the, the things that she can put out or what she can do within Word, right? So now you're looking at, profits and loss, and the Word is just the tool for that. So looking at everything from a business perspective, and that's really, what opened my mind is when I went for my first MSP, where I went from, junior sysadmin, senior sysadmin, and, it was like, hey, what can I take on? What can I learn? Just, do the tech stuff no one wanted to do. Then I went back into the restaurant world, and now I'm doing something completely different. And now being the manager, I have profit and loss, COGS, inventory, all of these things that go into the business, plus the employees, plus troubleshooting the kitchen hardware, right? We can't sell wings if a fryer's down, et cetera, right? Now going back to the MSP, couldn't look at tech the same. Like if I got a ticket, it was, well, what is everything else outside of just this computer? And, kind of the same thing, then started doing projects and really just was able to, do sales better initially just because I understood the backing of the business. So I think, just reframing how you look at a problem isn't just a tech problem. It is a business problem. And what is the strategy behind it? And I know it seems weird to look at, well, Word isn't looking, but it's a very basic watered down example. And that's where you start, and then you just go from there.
Well, you can watch. I mean, even it doesn't matter what size MSP you are. If you have your systems put in place together, when you're doing that troubleshooting and you make a note, hey, I fixed Word for these folks, then the next layer up should be looking at, okay, am I seeing patterns that would indicate that there's a systemic problem for this organization, which means maybe there's a bigger solution. You know what I mean? Maybe there's a bigger solution in the waiting. But that's analyzing, that's taking a look at the data and say, okay, well, you know what, she had trouble with Word. Oh, this other person in the same company had trouble with Excel, and this other one had trouble with, but it's all related to the same sort of support systems for the company. Then again, like you're pointing out, you have to actually be looking for those things. Someone has to have the job of looking for those things, and then somebody has to say, hey, you know what, we saw a lot of these instances and patterns, but we don't know what they mean. Then there you go. Now that's a chance for your customer experience people to actually have those conversations with the company. Say, hey, we're seeing a lot of this. Are you having this across a bigger swath of the company than we're seeing? And then now you're starting to work down that path of, again, being proactive, which is what you're pointing out, Josh. You're saying, well, in order to be strategic, you got to be proactive as well, right? But that's, again, using your systems, having them configured correctly, and having the processes to follow up, right?
Absolutely.
But you certainly can make inroads that way, for sure.
We got 2 minutes left, so we'll save our other story here for next week, and let's bring up the events and the plugs. So what do we got going on? We got Exchange August that is coming up this weekend in Denver, Colorado. Got IT Nation Connect in Australia, August 20th to the 22nd. And then, of course, we have IR Games that I plug every show, but now we have the man who invented it here. Bob, you want to tell us? You get 2 minutes. Pitch IR Games.
Well, you can sign up for free at irgame.ai, and it's on the 29th. We do a free one at the end of last Friday of every month. And this month's going to be kind of special because we're going to be we have refurbished the actual original scenario that we started with, that Matt Lee and Nathan Tancredi built, Ethan Tancredi had built. And so we're going back to the beginning. We're going to go back to the very first MSP, by the way, MSP oriented scenario that we started out with some refurbs and some new features and everything. So that'll be this month.
Awesome.
Sign up.
All right, Henry, what do you got? Anything you want to tag real quick?
No, I've got just a few more trips, travel trips here this month for some vendor consults, but no events. And I decided to take pretty much all of next month off the road. So
congratulations, Henry.
Looking forward to being home.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Bob, thank you so much for joining us. That was awesome.
It was a pleasure, man. My first time. I thank you.
All right. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Yeah, have a good weekend.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.